fact of the matter is, you know, the people are sheep. They follow the leader, and the leader means dollar bill. And in this geopolitical left, right, all of that,
well, it's sort of a condescending attitude. I mean, that's really the attitude of the American elites, that all they have to do is create this narrative, and then people will go along with it. And they do for a while.
no, politics is a game. I mean, it's like Monopoly. How can it be real?
We don't necessarily agree with Don. In fact, we're sure there are some examples of people who didn't blindly follow their leaders. We're sure of it. That's not it. This must be better, right? Much better. At least they have nice hair. What qualities make a good leader?
In this day and age, right now, I think they need a little bit more, well, they need to be more humble.
I like someone to be more, like say, out front and stuff like that. It's what I would consider a layman's type person.
Making sure that there's a lot of transparency, which is a great buzzword right now.
A person that has charisma and is, you know, a great speaker and someone that actually cares about people.
Jorge used to be a leader himself, a shepherd, and then a general in his country. Now he stays out of politics.
I think the qualities one looks for is do what you said you'd do, and that the platform on what you were elected on.
Transparency in a nutshell.
They should think about the country, the people, not themselves.
If you're going to be a true leader, you have to give up yourself. You can't worry about the big fancy cars, lifetime jobs, all of that. A real leader's going to get killed, frankly put. Anybody that's for the masses is going to die.
Honesty and a good plan. If you're dishonest, life will take care of you. You don't need to be out there, you know. Life takes care of people that do right, like takes care of people that do wrong.
We know the qualities of a good leader, so why are we still following the bad ones? We found a list of the 10 most corrupt leaders in the world. Who would be on that list?
Wow, 10, that's a lot.
I can name the countries, but not necessarily the people.
I know that there are a lot of issues in South and Central America.
I'm not aware of the list, but I'm sure the Philippines is one of them.
This should have been something that I nailed, but apparently I'm too involved in work these days to be paying attention to world affairs.
I want to say I don't know exactly which country, but it's in Africa, and it's the president's been the same president forever.
What if we ask some experts?
Marcos and Lazarenko, of course.
Mr. Abacha from Nigeria is on the list, Suharto from Indonesia, and some others. There's some other people who probably ought to be on the list who are not.
Martha Borsch brought to justice the number 8 on the list. Meet Pavlo Lazarenko, with a record of $200 million stolen from the good people of Ukraine.
This case was unique in two ways. It was the second time that the United States has ever prosecuted a former head of state. The first was Manuel Noriega, and in order to arrest and prosecute him, the United States had to invade Panama.
Jason Felch spent 7 months in the courtroom following the trial of Pavlo Lazarenko.
The part of it that was interesting to me was political corruption and how it works, and and why was the former Prime Minister of the Ukraine in a San Francisco courtroom? Why were 12 Bay Area residents being asked to decide this man's fate?
We didn't have to invade Ukraine for that, did we? Do we even know where it is?
Not really. I heard about it, but yeah, Ukraine.
Yeah, I've heard of Ukraine, yes I have.
My sister actually did an exchange program in Ukraine when she was in high school.
Well, Ukraine used to be Russia till they broke off, you know, and now they just run around like a bunch of wild Indians in the old West.
Traditional edge of Western Europe in sort of Cold War politics days, you know.
What kind of leader was Mr. Lazarenko?
Pavel Lazarenko was the Prime Minister of Ukraine from 1996 to 1997.
Martha Borsch led the prosecution team during Lazarenko's trial. And yes, that is Alcatraz in the background.
Well, as I understand it, he was a Communist Party functionary who rose from a lowly tractor driver to eventually become a prime minister in his country. My name is Jonathan Howden. I was a federal prosecutor for 25 years, and I was the #2 chair on the government's trial team in the case of Lazarenko, Pavel Lazarenko. Participated in the investigation as well as the trial.
Yes, Pavel Lazarenko, one of the biggest criminals in modern history.
Estimates of the amount that he embezzled from the Ukrainian government range from 115 to around $200 billion.
Lazarenko was moving substantial amounts of his money, hundreds of millions of dollars, out of banks in Western Europe into Antigua, and some of that into the United States. Among other things, he used the money to buy this fabulous mansion up in Nevada. It has passed through the hands of law enforcement previously because at least one of its previous owners was also involved in illegal activity.
The previous owner had been convicted of wire fraud and embezzlement after stealing money to build the house.
Lazarenko's an imposing man. He's 6'3", but he definitely stands straight-backed and rigid. He looks down on everybody. He wears his power well and conveys a certain amount of authority.
My impression of him was that he was a very powerful man who was used to getting his way.
Mr. Lazarenko, despite receiving hundreds of millions of dollars into Swiss bank accounts, consistently denied that he had any business interests and denied that he had any income other than the income he was receiving as Prime Minister of Ukraine or First Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine.
Apparently he's charismatic, honest, and transparent. How did he steal the money?
There's a saying about corruption in the post-communist world that if you're going to steal, you should steal big.
Timothy Fry wrote a lot on corruption and won a prestigious award for one of his books.
I've written widely on the interaction of politics and economics in the post-communist region.
What happened in the Ukraine and a lot of the former Soviet Union after the collapse of the Soviet Union was that what had been state-run enterprises became private property and were divvied up amongst a handful of powerful people.
When the Ukraine broke off, the first thing that happened was that their poor governance, there was actually no one competent with a knowledge of economics as to how to reconstruct a nation.
Professor Latish was born in Ukraine 90 years ago and is an expert on economies in transition.
So that the budget fell, the value of the currency dropped, prices plummeted, unemployment increased terribly. Therefore, if a person knew how to screw the system, he did it. And they did so with a vengeance.